Hi everybody, Don Giannatti, lighting-essentials.com and project52prosystem.com. I'm a big fan of shooting it in the camera correctly and getting it as best we can in the camera, but sometimes, as we all know, that doesn't work. We don't get the drama we felt and saw in our eye. We don't capture it for some reason. This particular reason on this shot is it was a just absolutely spectacular scene from the little lookout there in Southern California. And looking out at there's a lake to my left here, and this beautiful, beautiful high desert. The light was coming from behind the clouds, so the clouds were very bright. Now I was without my split neutral density filter, which would have really helped a lot. But I do have Lightroom, and so we're going to take Lightroom and just do a few things to Lightroom here in Lightroom to make the drama come back from where I have it now, which is a good, decent capture, to the drama that I felt on location on this particular day when the wind was blowing, and oh my, it was cold. It was really, really cold. Okay, we're in Lightroom. First thing we're going to do is go over here and change Adobe Standard to Adobe Color. It's going to give us a little bit rich color, a little bit more rich color through here, a little bit wider gamut of colors here. I use the REI RNI presets over here. I use them to start out with because they do such a great job with getting me to where I want to be pretty quickly. So in this particular case, I'm using Fuji Velvia, the number 2. You'll notice on the screen, number 1 is very dark, very moody, lovely tones up in the mid-tones. But Velvia 5002 here gives me a little bit lighter foreground. So I'm going to apply that right now. So that is a preset that I use, and I like it. And we're going to put that away. Over here, how do I put that away? Oh, I know. I hid my little thingy there. Okay. And now we have the image nice and big, so we can work with it and really see what's happening with it. Now, the preset set the colors and some contrast. As you can see, it moved the contrast. It does it through this, and the tone curve doesn't really set it on this slider. But we're going to open up the exposure just a little bit for the foreground there, which in turn opens up the sky more. We have, of course, this little guy here. We're going to come up here and drag him down to right about there, and very, very slightly lower the exposure of the sky till we get it in there, just about where it felt right for me. Now when I do that, it gets very blue back here. That's just the nature of it. I'm going to lower the contrast of those clouds. I'm going to bring the blacks down just a little bit. That pumps it up. Raise the whites just a little bit. I'm going to bring the highlights down so we can see into those clouds just about there, and the shadows. Just going to leave them right about where they were because it starts to affect the areas on the side. So we do have it looking pretty good here, except that it's very saturated blue. So I'm going to bring that saturation down just a little bit, and the sky get much more of the grays, the moody grays that I saw in the sky. Oh, that's the dehaze filter. Sorry. If they moved the dehaze filter, and I just went for what I want. I'm gonna move the clarity down just a little bit so it's not so flippin' strong. I upped the dehaze just a little bit, but I don't want those clouds to look like they're high definition or any of that type of thing. So this is looking pretty good. Let's say done with that gradient filter. I'm going to go down here, clarity. I'm just going to move the clarity just a little bit, +7. The dehaze, I think I'll match it at about +6 is fine. Vibrance comes up because when we play with the clarity, we have problems. And saturation is going to come up. I want this to be a nicely, deeply saturated photograph. All these lovely greens and muted cream colors back here in the sky really, really looks good. One thing I like to do is to bring this black up a little bit. I don't want to crush the blacks in the shadows. That can be a little bit problematic. So I'm just bringing my curve up a little bit. The midtones, I'm going to bring that up just a little bit as well. So I get a little more separation in here. So not a whole lot of work on the tone curve, just enough to make it what we want. The hue, I'm really going to leave alone. I like what the RNI preset did, so I'm going to leave that alone. Saturation, I am going to play with the saturation a little bit. I'm going to bring the yellow saturation up just a little bit and the orange up just a little bit, and that really brings it out. Brings out these oranges and things down in the foreground and in that middle area. I'm going to bring the orange up just a little bit here in the luminance, and the yellow up just a little bit in the luminance. That opens up my cream colors. It also gives me lots of definition down here. Now we're seeing all the little colorful bushes and things that I saw when I was there standing on the cliff freezing my tush off. Not going to split tone this one. Don't see any reason to split tone this one at all. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this highlight priority. I'm going to put a -6 on it, and that's it. We're not going to put a big, in fact, -6 looks a little bit too big. Let's take it back to -4. Yeah, we don't want to, I don't want like a circle of light vignette on this thing. I really don't. All right, so real simple in Photoshop. We're not going to do anything else in Photoshop. In Lightroom, we're really going to move over to Photoshop, which is where I spend most of my edit work. And however you work, that's fine for you. But this shot looks pretty good here in Lightroom, so let's get it into Photoshop. This is where I do spend most of my time when I'm doing all the fine retouching that I do on shots like this. Let's make it as big as we can, shall we? Okay, so now we're fitting the screen in it, and what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use Nick or anything until the end. I'm going to use Nick Sharpening, because right now I'm very, very happy with the tonality and everything that I see in the contrast, etc. Now I'm going to start to do a little bit of personal, just like working in the darkroom, exactly like working in the darkroom. I'm going to burn and dodge. I'm going to use an overlay or soft light on a filter, and I'm going to call it burn. I'm going to call it dodge on this one, and I'm going to add another layer to the top of that one, also soft light, and I'm going to name it burn. So I'm going to go back to dodge, because I'm going to do more dodging than burning in this one. Back to dodge. I'm going to grab a brush with an opacity of 9, a flow of 100. We can take the flow down to 90 here. And now I have this very, very light touch that I can add some highlights. So I felt that this ridge in front needs to be brighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over the edge. And I'm doing it wrong because as I'm talking to you, I totally forgot to change my brush from black to white. So we're going to do that now. Change the brush to white. Smoothing 10, 90, opacity 90. Now I'm going to come down off this ridge just a little bit like this. If you can hear the ticks and the taps of the mouse, you know what I'm doing. It's just a little bit. I'm going to take this and open up the brighter tones here with this. It doesn't affect the dark tones as much as it does the light tones. I mean, if you stand here and just bang it on the darker tones, yeah, you'll affect them. But if I'm touching down in the shadows, you notice how it brings out the detail without affecting the shadow? Okay, this is not a new technique, and those of you who have followed me on Project 52 or any of the other things, you know I do this a lot. This is how I get to experiment and create the light the way I saw it on that day. And sometimes, you know, we get a chance to come and do these things, these photographs, and everything is perfect, but it doesn't give us the feeling that we had before. So that's what I'm going for here, is the feeling. So I get my left hand on this. This dark part of the bush is going really dark there. Same with that one. That little ridge line of color, I'm going to bring that out. A little bit of color right there. Little color right there. This is very dark, so I'm going to, there we go, get a little detail in there. Little highlights there. See that ridge? It's a natural ridge that would catch the light, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those edges on these little ridges. They would catch the light more than the shadow side of them did. Got a little bit of a ridge there. A little bit of a rock outcropping, and I want to bring these rocks up. I don't want to make them look like they're phony or anything, but I do want to bring them up just a little bit. And down in here, right in here. All right, so did we do a lot to the image? Sorry, we did. We did. I did that on the burn layer. I should have done it on the dodge layer. So I'm going to rename this one and change this one to burn. Okay, so turn this one off, go back to this layer here. Notice that because it's on a layer here, I can do some really neat things with it. Like I can drop the opacity of this layer just down to where I think it makes sense. Just about there. Really, really nice. Okay, I like that. I'm going to go back to my dodge layer with my brush, my bright brush here on white, and make a big brush out of it. And these dark trees down here, I'm just going to tap, 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 and tap. Not a whole lot, but it really does blend them in nicely, doesn't it? Bringing out a little bit of detail. Got a nice bright area where the sun hit down through here, but it's not as defined as I want it to be. So now I'm going to define it by adding a new layer at soft light. I'm going to call it riverbed, for lack of a better thing. This is a riverbed down there. I'm going to tap this overlay brush in. That's a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring the opacity down right to about 70. 75 should be just fine. Now I'm going to go to the burn layer. I'm going to change my brush to black, and I'm going to look at some of these little shadowy areas like that, and I'm just going to darken it. Darken this side of the mountain, that little hills, I mean. The side of that little hill, that side of the little hill. Just going to add a little bit of contrast up in those areas right here, right around the edge of this body of, right around the edge of the sand there, so that it doesn't look flat. I'm going to bring out some of the natural things in it. So there we go. We're looking pretty good. And I think a couple of other things I can do to it. questions is, should I do those things to it? I think that we're looking pretty good. I'm going to add a layer mask over the top of the whole thing, a curves adjustment. I'm going to raise this black. I've already raised it in Lightroom. I don't want to raise it too much. Right about there. I'm going to grab this, bring it down just a little bit. Bring this one up just a little. And I think we're good. Yes, it just really opened this sky up a little bit, gave us a little bit more feeling of the light. If you can see how the light just looks a little bit more rich there, that looks really great. Command Option Shift E moves everything to a new layer, and I'm going to go into Nick and Output Sharpener. And wow, that doesn't fit my little video screen at all here, so let me shrink it down for you. Hear that shrinking down sound? Isn't that awesome? Shrinking it down, checking it out over here and making sure that I've got detail where I want it and I don't have too much noise, etc. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so this is there's a lot more that I could do to this image, but I don't really think I want to. I don't think I need to. I think that the image looks exactly the way I wanted it to look when I shot it and the way I felt about it. So just a few little things you can do quickly in Lightroom, a couple of presets, and you can bring back that emotional the emotional part of the image, I should say, that is lost sometimes in exposure. So thanks for watching. If you like the channel, go ahead and like it. I appreciate that very much. Can't tell you how much. Let your friends know, share it, send it out by postcard. I don't know. There's a whole lot of things you can do. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.